Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Fallout. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, what is my experience with Fallout? I have no experience. I've never played any of the games. I've seen some gameplay stuff from different games over the years, but Fallout's just never been one of those franchises I've touched on. My only experience with Fallout was basically hearing the premise of what it was around the time the show was coming out. So I think it's interesting, and this is what I've heard from other people, people who are a little more familiar with the Fallout franchise, is basically this TV show isn't a straight adaptation of any particular game. It's more like, right, all these games take place in the universe that is Fallout, just in different places, locations, and time frames, and it's like, this is a story that could take place in the universe. It's not fully, it's adapting the universe, but not any particular story. So it's adapting lore that's out there in the world, but just not these particular characters and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a neat approach to be able to do that. It gives you a lot more freedom. You have the restraint to what the lore is, but you can add your own spice and flair to it. So obviously, I'm also a big fan of Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, who are, like, obviously, I don't know if Lisa was, I know Jonathan Nolan was person of interest. I don't know if Lisa Joy was with him on that. I believe, someone can correct me, I believe Lisa Joy's his wife. I don't know if they were together when he was doing Person of Interest. I know they were together when they were doing Westworld. So, and I'm a big fan of both shows, so that's why I'm like really excited to check this out. But once again, especially this being my first introduction to this world and this story. But obviously, we had that opening with Cooper, which is really sad. It's like, right, you're apparently you were somebody before. We don't really know, but it seems like you were someone maybe on television, but now here you are relegated to playing the cowboy at a party, and like people are kind of treating you crappy. Like the dad's kind of like, oh, he won't do the thumbs up thing, and it's like, well, because it turns out there's kind of a bad association. He even said, like, yeah, with everything going on, we're potentially going to nuclear war. Like, probably not the best time to be doing the thumbs up thing, because he even explains it to his daughter what it means. Which I'm like, I feel like I remember people talking about that recently, but I don't know if that's a Fallout video game lore. Is that something just from the TV show, or is that actually, just from the TV show, or is that something that's actually legitimate? Because especially because people have commented on like how that adds a dark element to, like, you know, the mascot. I don't know what it's called, Pit Boy. The mascot was someone like just a person in the, you know, the Vault uniform, like blonde dude, thumbs up, everything. It's like, yeah, like with that context, it makes that even darker. So like I said, I don't know if that's like a real life thing, if that's just a video game thing, if that's just a TV show thing. Let me know in the comments down below, those who are a lot more familiar on it. I probably should have looked that up beforehand, but I'm in the middle of this, so I just want to keep steamrolling ahead. But it's sad. And the worst timing too, just when he taught his daughter that, the explosion happened. He's like, no, that's a fire. And it's just this heartbreaking thing of like, he's standing right there with his daughter, just shocked at it. Everyone's behind them, like just inside the house watching TV. No one's seeing what's happening outside because the mom changed the channel, because it's like, man, let's focus on some more positive stuff instead of like, yeah, because even the weatherman was like, do I really need to be talking about the weather? We don't even know what tomorrow's going to be like. And yeah, we see the literal fallout and the nuclear explosion, everyone running for their lives. The family whose like son whose birthday party it was, he was fighting other friends off because they had like a bomb shelter. So who knows how they made it, whether it worked out for them or not, because hey, we're 200 years later, you know. Quite the time skip. I already went into this knowing there was like that massive of amount of time, but obviously we get introduced to one of our lead characters, Lucy, played by Ella Purnell, who I best know for playing Jackie on Yellow Jackets. So like, when I saw the teaser and she was in there, I was like, oh, that's so dope. I had no idea she was working on this, so that was pretty dope. But yeah, a lot of interesting things about the Vault I never knew. Yeah, a lot of incest apparently, because there's this whole situation of like, oh, like to bring a union between vaults and so they can exchange stuff. It's kind of like Lucy's getting married off, and she was talking to her friend, I think Stephanie, being like, oh yeah, I'm so glad, 10 years of cousin stuff is fine and dandy, but now to be able to kind of do it with someone else. I was like, did I listen to that right? And then later on, Chet's like messing with the button. He's like, oh, there's a technical issue. She's like, what's going on? He's like, I love you. She's like, I know that. We all know that. But, fooling around with your cousin, she's like, that's fine and Danny when we're kids, but now, that's not sustainable for a long sexual partnership. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, so yeah, we are, I mean, makes sense. There's a limit, because she even was, during her interview, she was like, yeah, like, I've never found anyone that's compatible, that's not family related. And she's like, that's why we have the rule. So it's like, you can fool around as family. I guess it specifically has to be cousins. Jesus Christ. I would assume that's not just a show. I'm assuming that's something straight out of the... I'm sure there's some incest that exists in the Fallout universe. I had no idea. Not, like I said, not unless that is something specifically written for the show. But it's just kind of like yeah, we have rules against it. It's like, right, you can do all that, but you can't do anything. Like, it can't be long term. So, because it's about repopulating and stuff. So when she does eventually meet her hubby-to-be, Monty... it is a situation of, she's immediately asking, like, what's your sperm count like? The perpetualness of, like, surviving and the next generation, we kind of have to, that's kind of an important detail. So it's a kind of like interesting, wedding day talking, because it's like, hey, I got to get right to it, And she's fine with that, because it's like, yeah, like, this will serve the greater duty. Like, I'm going to get married, pop out a kid, and this is what our lives are going to be. And she's so happy about that, because it's contributing to the greater good. She's got all these skills. She's very smart and capable. So I was waiting for the dark turn, because there was like there was this look about Lee where I'm like, I don't know, man, there's something off. And what I thought was interesting too, because it kept seeming like Norman kept staring at her, because I guess he got a bad vibe. But I was also concerned, like, is Norman up to some shady shit, or like, what's going on here? And then we find out Vault 32 people aren't who we thought they were. Especially when Monty, like, I was looking at it, I was like, that's weird, because after him and Lucy hooked up, he went over to, like, the curtain and was wiping off his dick. I'm like, are you trying to, like, ew, gross, I got her pussy juice on my dick. Like, what the fuck was that? That's what I was wondering, if that's what that was supposed to be. Like, ew, I can't believe I had sex with her or something. And that looked like that was him wiping off his dick because he was, like, so disgusted by her or something. And she was just kind of looking like, oh, that's weird, but whatever. But yeah, like, they're not even people from the Vault 32. They're raiders who came in, killed everyone in Vault 32, came up with this whole ruse just to get to Vault 33, and they proceed to kill people. And I love that whole sequence, that whole thing, because showing just how bloody this show can be and how gruesome. And then, once again, the games are rated mature, so, like, but still. Especially, like, what she did when she broke, like, that glass pitcher and, like, fucked his face up. Like, when I thought she slit his throat. It was like, no, she probably partially slit his throat, but mainly, like, mangled his face. He looked like Jigsaw from Marvel with how, like, jacked up his face was. No, not as bad as Jigsaw, but getting there. Like, he looked like mincemeat, dude. That was raw and crazy. There's also this interesting element of, like, I mean, obviously, once again, you're just seeing, like, everyone dying brutal ways. One dude had the gun put in his mouth, blew his head out, and then proceeded to his head, the gun stuck through his head, still shooting people. I'm like, that's gnarly as hell. Her friend Stephanie getting stabbed by a fork. I think that was her husband that she came across that was dead, because when she was talking about Monty being like, oh my god, saying like how Lucy was lucky because he's so hot, like the guy behind her was staring almost like, really? So I'm assuming that's her hubby. But yeah, like, because it made you wonder, like, why did they specifically... I mean, it's like, right, they have supplies and stuff. You raided their armory, so obviously they've got stuff that you want. But I was like, what? It does seem like they came here with a plan, because they specifically seem like they came after Hank, played by Kyle MacLachlan, Agent Cooper himself. That was dope. Because, like, other than, like, I think Ella Purnell, Kyle MacLachlan, and so far Walton Goggins, they're the only people I'm the most familiar with each other. There's some other actors that are sprinkled in, but those three kind of lead characters to some extent are, like, the three I'm probably the most familiar with. The actor who plays Maximus, I don't believe I didn't take a deep dive into his IMDb like I should have, but I don't think I'm familiar with him, but the other three I am. Walton Goggins, I should also really quickly be like, I think Justified was the first thing I ever saw him in. Obviously Justified, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, The Unicorn on CBS. It's a great comedy show I really liked. So bummed that got canceled. Probably, I want to say, wasn't on Prime Video. I'm a Virgo is probably the most recent thing I've seen Walton Goggins in, I want to say. But he's just one of those actors, like, yeah, Walton Goggins, he's that dude. He's great. But either way, tangents and all that aside, it did seem like she purposely came after Hank, like he had some, because she's almost referencing like you've got some secret. Because I thought it was interesting because you could tell like what I know of Fallout. I was like, okay, just what I've seen of like the teaser trailer. I don't think I've watched a full official trailer, but what, like, obviously, like, he was lying, saying like, oh, maybe by the time we get to Lucy and Monty's kids, they will be able to make it to the surface because the radiation will be so low. Which I'm like, well, we know that's bullshit because there are people who live above. So it's like, right, because I wonder, is their perception of, are these raiders from the surface, or do you know that they're from other vaults? Like, what, because you call them raiders, so you know they're a thing, but do you think they're raiders from other vaults? Or do you know that they're from the surface? Because it's like, right, he's lying. Because obviously people... I mean, it might also be the thing, once again, I don't know enough of the lore of maybe some of the people can survive because, like, right, you've lived above ground for so long, so, like, the radiation isn't as much of an issue as it would be. But I'm sure, like, over 200 years, it has died down. But it seems like it was a lie that Hank was keeping up of, like, right, let's not go to the surface quite yet. You know, I'm envisioning what that future could be, you know, when the kids can make it, you know, when the next generation after Lucy and Monty will eventually be able to go to the surface. It seemed like he was trying to, I mean, was it all about control, about keeping all this power? Like, is it just kind of a secret that all the overseers have that has to get passed down of like, yeah, you got to keep this lie up, you got to keep this lie up, type of situation, just to keep some monochrome of control? Because there was this whole conversation of, once we go to the surface, that we got to basically re-educate and we got to change them, not let them change us. He's like, I believe in us, I have hope that we can make the surface world a better world, because it's like probably a lawless, violent world, which, you know, there is that element to it. But it, like I said, it seemed like Lee specifically came here because, like, especially because Hank was like, I know who you are. And she's like, everyone knows who I am. Because later on, they even referred to her as a witch, which I'm like, I don't think they mean that. Well, I don't know what a witch could mean in this universe. So she does seem like very evil, and but once again, I don't know what her purpose is, like what her whole deal is. What's interesting though is she is a raider, but she also knows Lucy's mom. I have to stop myself because every time I'm about to say Lucy's name in my head, I have to correct myself immediately while I'm talking because I want to say Ella. I want to call her by her real name instead of like the character's name. But yeah, because of her knowing Lucy's mom, so it's like, because she came from a different vault too, didn't she? Come from like, did he come? No, I think he came from 31, or was she the one that came from 31? I can't remember. So it's like, what's the connection there? Like, was she? What's the, like, maybe? Well, you'd assume like maybe like the vault, because I think he came from a different vault. So maybe the vault he came from 31 has something to do with her. But they seem like they had no direct relation for him to be like, I know who you are. So she is notorious, but they must have never had any direct connection through the vaults or something like that for him to not say like, oh, I know who you are, and for her not to be like, oh, I know who you are. It's like I've heard of you by reputation or something like that. So, but yeah, like it's kind of a sad situation. Her dad's kidnapped. A lot of people in Vault 33 are killed. I mean, obviously everyone in Vault 32 is like dead. There was also this interesting thing, like circling back about Hank really quickly, when he was drowning Monty. There was like this like coldness in his eyes, and you could almost see it, almost like, considering the circumstances, I don't think she focused on it too much, but she almost had this look, almost like, whoa, I've never seen that side of and like the coldness in his eyes and his face when he was dry. Like, it's one thing where you're just like, I'm angry, I'm killing you, you're trying to hurt my daughter, which seems to be his motivation in that moment. But it also, just like I said, there's a coldness there, like, yeah, I'm not too, you know, they're combat ready and stuff, but like, I'm curious how many people there have actually killed anyone. Have they lived in peace, you know, down here in the vault with no issues? Like, once again, there's a lot of that we haven't really gotten to yet. So, but when it's all said and done, the vault is trying to recover. They're trying to make sure, like, right, we have no interaction with the outside world. We need to lock these doors down, make sure never interact with anyone, kind of like consolidate and come back in and just keep to ourselves again. Never reach out to another person again. But Lucy wants to go find hers and Norman's dad, which I think it's also kind of like, it feels like a spit in the face to Norman, because all you have is Hank going on and on and on about how Lucy's his world. At no point do you say, Lucy, you and Norman are my world. It's like, no, just you. And it's just like, he loves his son, but it's just like, he doesn't get the attention like Lucy does, because Lucy's the one that's more outgoing. Like, Norman makes snide comments, but he also recognizes, he's like, yeah, you go, Lucy. Like, because she's like, I'll trank you if you try to follow me. He's like, thanks for trying to, like, make it seem like I'd be courageous enough. But he's like, I know me. I'm too chicken shit to, like, well, I don't think he used the term chicken shit. Where did I get that? I think, was Final Fantasy VIII the first time I ever heard the term chicken shit? Wasn't that what, like, Cypher and his crew used to call Zell all the time chicken shit? Is that where I'm picking that up from? I think so. Anyway, going on a tangent there. Like, call himself a chicken, but it's like, yeah, like, I'm not brave enough to do this. And because Lucy wants to go off on her own, because Norman said something I think is kind of something to keep in mind, where it's like, they're not going to want to find Dad, because if they find Dad, that means giving up the power they are, because now they're kind of in charge, because the power, now our overseer is going, like, the power kind of relegates down to them. And so Lucy makes her way to the surface. And it's like, right. I love that the people are like, Lucy, you come back here. It's like, oh, well, I guess we did all that we could, and they just let her leave, because it's like, well, there's not much we can do in this situation. So we have that side of things, kind of like the beginning of Lucy's journey and figuring out what that's all about. Then we also have this situation where we're introduced to, I guess, what is considered kind of a cult in this universe, the Brotherhood of Steel. Apparently their job is to collect, like, pre-war pre-Fallout relics, for whatever purpose. They have a grander purpose of, I don't know if the mission they're on now is part of their grand purpose, or, like, is that just kind of just another mission. But it's like, it seems like collecting, like, relics, and it's almost like they're trying to save the world from what it has become and what it could be. Like, very much my understanding of the Brotherhood of Steel, once again, having no knowledge of Fallout, they are this cult, and that's where we get introduced to Maximus. I don't think we ever found out why other people were beating the shit out of him for whatever reason. I don't know. Like, we later on learned his reason for joining the Brotherhood. It's because he's like, I wanted to get revenge against I want to hurt the people who hurt me. And so I guess, like, we saw him hiding out in, like, a refrigerator. So I guess, like, the people, maybe some family died, and his introduction was like, he met a knight of the Brotherhood, and he was captivated by them. And it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm slightly aware of, like, the power suit thing. I feel like I knew that going into this, but aside from just the teasers, I feel like I've seen that gameplay-wise, but I don't, once again, I know nothing enough about this universe to really comment on anything, so. But either way, you have the people who, I forgot the name they're giving, but they're basically grunts who have to try and work their way up to get promoted to being squires, and then I guess eventually you can promote yourself to knight. I don't know if that's how that works or not, or, like, you have to be very special to get the position of knight. But the knights are the ones who wear the suits. I'd assume you can work your way up to knight. But, because obviously we get introduced to Maximus and, like, the hard time he's having, and once again, not only getting a piss beat out of him by the other people in the cult, but also, like, one of the teachers is beaten in the face, where he's also, like, got his nose busted up, has to dig up bury the latrine, he has to clean them and stuff. Then, like, his friend Dane, they end up getting promoted before him, and it's just, then we had the Dane situation where it's like they were putting on a boot. I was like, what happened? Like, was something stuck in there? Yeah, fucking razor blade. That was gnarly as hell. Now, like, the ultimate question then becomes, like, did Maximus actually do that? I actually don't know. I feel like it feels like they're trying to lean into the thing of, like, no, there's no way he could have done it. It might not be till a couple episodes from now before we learn the truth of, yeah, he did do it. Because it seems so plausible, because you're trying to, like, right, we're seeing him get the piss beat out of him, so you're like, right, he's frustrated, but he'd never do that. Dane's his friend, but it's like, I don't know, man. Like, when you're motivated enough, you're ambitious enough, and you see, like, every person's capable of getting controlled by, like, those ambitions and, like, being jealous. Like, jealousy is a bitch. So, I don't know. But he was interrogated about it, and it's like, did you do it? And he was like, no, I didn't do it. He's like, I thought about it. I wanted it to happen. Is that so wrong? And the guy was like, yeah, it is. Because if you're thinking like that, once again, using violence against other people, fine. Using it against your fellow brethren is weakness. And is that what you are? Are you weak? And he tries to put up a strong front. It's like, right, if you have to punish me, like, then, you know, I will gladly, like, I'm glad, thank you for giving me a purpose, giving me a home when I had none. Like, if it wasn't for the Brotherhood, I wouldn't have anything. You found me when I was lost and alone and had nothing, and you gave me everything. So I'll always be thankful. And if my life has to be sacrificed and it's for the greater good of the Brotherhood, then so be it. It's like, well, cool, you said all the right things, and now instead of Dane, because of Dane's injuries, they're no longer going to be, what was it? I forgot the knight's name that Maximus is serving now, but it's like, yeah, you're going to be their squire now. So he ends up taking off because their mission is involving them to search the wilds to find a specific dude. Because I already know he's in the show because I've seen like previews with him in it. But it seems like whoever Michael Emerson's character is, apparently he has escaped an enclave, and it's like, oh, the enclaves, are they real? Which I'm like, is the enclave supposed to be the vaults, or is it something else entirely? So is he from a vault? It seems like that also seems like that has some correlation to go along with Lee's circumstances. Maybe that's also where Hank comes into play. Maybe they had some correlation there, but just, yeah, the picture of Michael Emerson and his dog, whatever that story ends up being, whatever, apparently he has something that could either destroy things or save things, and it's about capturing him and potentially taking the thing that, whatever it is that he has, we have no clarification on what that is exactly. So basically, the knights are all split up searching different regions to find out what this thing is. And now it's like Maximus is like, right, I'm off. I never thought this was possible. I hoped and dreamed of it, but now it's like, here I am. So it's going to be interesting to see where that storyline goes. And like I said, getting clarity on whether or not he actually did that to Dane or not. And then finally, tying back into the end of the episode, I think it's poetic to be like, yeah, this was Cooper before, and this is what's befall Cooper now, where we find out about him being a ghoul. There's this whole thing about some dude named Dom who apparently every year digs him up, cuts off a piece of him, and then digs him, puts him back in the ground, which I'm like, is that supposed to be like a Prometheus punishment? Isn't Prometheus the one, if I'm remembering my Greek mythology, like, aren't you like tied to a rock and basically every day, like, was it a vulture comes to eat your liver? Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be something like that. Like, what did you do to piss someone off that they feel the need to come to you every year, cut off a piece of you and put you back in the ground? Because he's a bounty hunter. Once again, 200 years, we have no idea all that's happened to him. Like, it seems like maybe he's the only one that survived, and you know, once again, we cut away from him and his daughter. Like I think the last time we saw him was he was putting his daughter on a horse. So he, you know, is it a blessing or, well, it's not even going to be, I'm about to say it's a blessing or curse. It's definitely a curse being the one that survived and your daughter didn't. But it's like, are you glad that your daughter didn't? Because she would have had a fate similar to your own. I mean, 200 years of living like that with so much regret, like, it's probably going to drive you insane and make you not the greatest guy. Might have been a good guy before, but who you were before, you know, because once again, they show you the title card for him. It's like, he's the ghoul. He's not even Cooper. It's just the ghoul. So I think that speaks volumes on that's who I am. So he's getting hired for a job, the same person that the Brotherhood of Steel is after. So is Cooper, you know. And they're like, yeah, it could be that last job that you get paid a lot, we get paid a lot. And I love that line from Cooper being like, yeah, people who say this is going to be the last job, either they don't have their heart in it or maybe they never did. Because he's like, for me, when it comes to this type of stuff, I forgot what the exact phrasing, but he was just like, yo, I was made for this shit. I've always been for the game or something like that. Not even hogtied, but lassoed the main dude, grabbed the other dude who got tranked, like used him as a huge shield, and then blew the other dude's head off. So it kind of goes on its way because it's like, yeah. So I guess if Dom comes looking for him, it's like, yeah, I'm not going back in the ground anytime soon. Would he need to? Because obviously it's like, whatever like they had in those IV bags was meant to kind of sustain him and keep him going. Like, how do you put a ghoul down? Like, could they die if they sustain enough damage? I don't know what their circumstances. Does he have a healing factor? Like, was the stuff in that IV the only thing that's kept him around all these years? You know, because you are, I mean, also like, what is a ghoul that can vary from like lore to lore? Because like when I think of a ghoul, I think of Rosario plus vampire. It's a manga and anime. Like their like version of a ghoul is correlated to vampirism, whereas this is kind of zombie-ish, but it's correlated to vampires. Whereas like in this, it seems like it's closer to a vampire. I mean, gosh, sorry, zombie. But I've seen other things kind of borderline ghouls between ghost and zombies seem to be the traditional ones I'm aware of. So I don't know. It just, like I said, it varies from lore to lore. So where that goes is going to be interesting too. Like it's so interesting because Lucy's storyline seems to be like its own thing, but I'm sure it does connect in the same vein. But like the Brotherhood of Steel as well as the Ghoul story are definitely correlated. So it's going to be interesting. Once again, I'm excited to continue down this route. I kind of get to see what the story is, explore this universe and world, and kind of follow these characters and see where the story ultimately ends up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.